In 1692, hysteria broke out in the village of Salem. Now, if you're an American, you probably already know this story. It's pretty well known. In a manic fit, the citizens of Salem village decided to accuse one another of witchcraft. That was a crime which carried immeasurable weight, but also carried with it a disproportionately light burden of proof. Having torn clothes or a seizure was enough to get you convicted. Now, Puritans had always hated witches, but this mania was different. For context, things were already a bit tense. A flood of refugees had come into the area due to the nearby King Philip's War. Many wives and children were left fatherless due to said war. And all the things that the Puritans just hated. We're talking Quakers, Native Americans, French people, the Quebecois, surrounded them completely. People of other cultures, other beliefs, threatening their way of life just by existing. Now, the fiasco ended when the final execution went awry. The accused, Reverend George Burroughs, stood atop the gallows and, to everyone's amazement, recited the Lord's Prayer. Now, that's not really that impressive if you're a pastor. It's kind of expected, but as per their whack job beliefs, if you were a witch, you couldn't recite the Lord's Prayer. Like, you just couldn't. He had effectively proven himself innocent atop the gallows in front of everyone, even to their wacky standards. So they let him down, with a noose around his neck and his feet dangling in the air, even though he was innocent. Now, all's well and good until a white man in power gets hurt. Commentary aside, though, it was kind of at this point that the Puritans had realized that they'd given in just a little bit too much into their zeal. But by then, the damage was done. Some 20 people were dead, and 200 more, many of whom at this point had been imprisoned, were left accused of witchcraft, which was a big deal in their society. It left their community just broken, and with a nasty game of 52 pickup. Apologies were made, restitutions delivered, and the incident managed to burrow itself into American legend, defining a good chunk of the New England identity along with, I don't know, fucking Tom Brady and shitty driving. My name's Cats Because Yeah, the reason's in the name, and let's talk about cancel culture. Now, this video is the first in what I expect is going to be a trilogy. I want to examine cancel culture, how it has taken root in the YouTube ecosystem, and what it means for us as consumers, as creators, and even participants. Now, I ain't making this series because I want to tell you what to think of this whole situation. This series as a whole has taken over a month of writing, but the sentence that I'm speaking now, I wrote on the very day that I got the idea to make this series a thing. I'm making this because I genuinely do not understand what the fuck happened in May. Every video on the controversies, Projared, James Charles, feels like another scream in the cacophony of drama. A symphony of shit where I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I desperately need to. This cancel culture wave seems to have slammed YouTube in the month of May, and it has lingered since. And I want to know why. I really do. By drafting scripts and researching content and making this series, what I'm really doing is trying to digest all of this stuff for myself, albeit publicly, and y'all are just kind of along for the ride, for better or for worse. Now, let's make it clear. I'm not an academic. I do not have a degree in sociology or psychology, but I do have one in writing, though. So I might sound like I know what I'm talking about, but don't assume that I do, okay? Don't take what I say for gospel. All it is food for thought. So, join me, yours fucking truly, in trying to understand what is cancel culture. In the month of May, 2 record-breaking events struck YouTube in the span of about a week. On May 8th, gaming YouTuber Projared was accused of being a cheater and would then later on be accused of sexually harassing fans and even being a pedophile. As a result, Projared lost more subs than any other major YouTuber on the platform did relative to their subscriber base. That is to say, he lost over 250,000 subscribers, or over a quarter of his base. Only 2 days later, Tati Westbrook released an expose on James Charles, accusing him of personal betrayal as well as preying on straight men. James Charles would go on to lose more subscribers than any other YouTuber has in a 24-hour period, beating out second-place Laura Lee by well over 1 million subscribers. Overall, he would lose about 3 million subs over the controversy. May was a clusterfuck. YouTubers have had massive sub losses before, don't get me wrong, it's nothing new. But these two events were titanic, and they occurred virtually back-to-back. And they possessed a quality that many other controversies that saw YouTubers lose subs like this lacked. Though that distinction will be vital down the road. But instead, this video has a different goal. What is cancel culture? We hear the term a lot, and for the sake of this series, it's critical that we establish a clear and working definition. But first, let's get into more detail. On May 8th, Projared released a vague tweet discussing his divorce with his wife, Heidi. Heidi, unable to even view the tweet as she'd been blocked by the guy on Twitter, decided to begin discussing his infidelity with friend Holly Conrad. From there, it snowballed. It was alleged, via screen caps, that Projared would aggressively flirt with fans, some of whom being underage. And in the end, Normal Boots would announce that them and Projared would no longer be working together. What is Normal Boots? It's kind of one of those, like, weird incestual YouTube collective things, you know, where a bunch of creators of the same niche kind of get together and make shit. I don't know. I don't understand it. It's weird. Meanwhile, ya girl, I just smacked myself in the face. Meanwhile, ya girl, Tati Westbrook, decided to plan a secret surprise attack at famous makeup boy James Charles. Ooh, getting dramatic. Who, by the way, had about 16 million subscribers at the time. She released Bye Sister, a 43-minute long expose detailing a whole lot of shit. Now, for context, Tati Westbrook had been something of a mentor and a mother figure to James Charles, being a bit older, and she had kind of guided him along his road to stardom. However, she cites 3 primary grievances that have basically destroyed their relationship. First, she cites that his behavior had grown more manipulative and more selfish the more famous he had grown.
I know that he has a way of just getting what he wants, and I've always blamed it on his age. I've been like, oh, he'll grow up, like, it's fine.
Secondly, though James had previously supported Tati's own beauty supplement company, whatever, Halo Beauty, he had apparently gone behind her back and endorsed a rival company, Sugar Bear Hair, on Instagram.
You know, add insult to injury, the Sugar Bear Hair thing, that was a blatant lie. Like, come on.
Thirdly, and most damning of all, she reveals that James Charles had been sexually harassing straight men, sort of in a weird ploy to make them gay, so to speak.
Oh my god, you tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay yet again.
Both of these events decimated the accused. The floodgates were open, and the internet was pissed. Other influencers even jumped into the carnage, like ya boy, totally not controversial Jeffree Star, who backed up Tati's claims by citing his own experience with James. Now, this was not the first time that YouTubers had gone after YouTubers, or YouTubers were eaten alive by their fans. This form of influencer cannibalism is nothing new to the platform. In fact, examples of it are endless, really, but I think for the sake of comparison, we'll stick to the most infamous sort. The canceller-in-chief, the sheriff of YouTube.
Oh, my nuts! Oh.
His Content Cop series is a tour de force on YouTube. And in sheer numbers, these videos get a ton of views. Tana and Keemstar, 28 million. Levy, 37 million. And Rice Gum, 44 million. And though these videos lack the sober delivery of Tati's Bye Sister or Heidi's tweets, their claims are just as damning. And yet, despite its titanic reputation, Content Cops don't result in the same cataclysm. Even the Leafy Content Cop precipitated a larger downfall, which you can learn more about in Empleman's Leafy Was Here video, which is an amazing video, by the way. I highly recommend it. And while the impact of the Leafy Content Cop was considerable, it's just not comparable to what we saw in May. Now, prior to May, the largest subscriber losses that we saw on the platform were that of Laura Lee and the Fine Bros. The latter tried to infamously copyright React thereby monopolizing an entire genre of YouTube. Bad idea, don't do that. Meanwhile, the former saw her channel crippled after she ironically failed to cancel Jeffree Star. She and her friends decided to accuse him of being racist based on past tweets. Surprise, surprise, their Twitter histories, not so sterling either. Crazy, right? And their fans raked them over the coals for their hypocrisy. So, what's the difference between those two situations in May? With the Fine Bros, it's pretty obvious. They had threatened to do something that would have actively hurt the community as a whole. And the harsh reaction was justified. I mean, they got the message. With the Laura Lee situation, it just kind of blew up in her face. She and her friends tried to start shit with Jeffree, accuse him of racism, and, well...
What's that smell? Some bullshit? I'm gonna put it up.
There is actually a larger difference, though. It's, in fact, the same distinguishing element that I mentioned earlier in the video. However, it carries with it a lot of moral baggage that we're just gonna have to explain in the next video. Unfortunately, we're far from that, but we are nearing the end of the video. Now, with what we've discussed so far, can we garner a working definition of cancel culture? I think so. Professor Nakamura of the University of Michigan states bluntly that it's a cultural boycott. It's an agreement not to amplify, signal boost, give money to. People talk about the attention economy. When you're depriving someone of attention, you're depriving them of a livelihood. That phrase, attention economy, can actually be condensed into an already existing term, social capital. Now, there are two kinds of social capital, external and internal, though we're only going to worry about the external kind for now. Now, external social capital is the extent to which, as David Noak describes, social actors create and mobilize their network connections within and between organizations to gain access to other social actors' resources. Organizations can include YouTubers, their various niches, and even the audience, while resources can include things like corporate sponsorships, YouTube collaborations, or more simply, your attention, which in and of itself is a resource. I'll admit, it does feel dirty morphing your experience as a viewer into just a commodity, but, well, capitalism. Just as one's traditional capital can be measured by, say, the amount of money in their wallet or the number on their debit account, among many other things, external social capital can be measured by how many viewers you have or how many subscribers you have. Fame is just wealth in another form of capital. For example, for my furry viewers, take Majira Strawberry. He is undoubtedly one of the wealthiest furries in terms of social capital. Wow, we did it. So we made it through a fuck ton of sociological bullshit just now.
What's that smell? Is that some bullshit?
So let's put it to good use. What is cancel culture? Let's break it up. Now, the cancel in cancel culture can sufficiently be defined as the seizure of one's social capital. Who is doing the seizing? Corporate sponsors, other YouTubers, and most importantly, the audience. The culture in cancel culture is where things start to get interesting. Because canceling someone, as we previously defined it, fuck, that's nothing new. We've been doing that shit for a long time. It's what iDubbbz does to bad content creators. It's what Laura Lee and friends dealt with after their naked hypocrisy. Some people fuck up, and some people fuck up to such an extent that it warrants the movement of social capital. Now, the government doesn't regulate that shit like it would traditional capital. So, the audience giveth, and the audience taketh away. So is this not culture? YouTubers cancel each other a lot. Hell, people do it a lot. If we try and boil everything down to some economic, sociological framework, so much as befriending someone becomes just an exchange of social capital, kind of like lending $1. Losing that friend or cutting them off is just rescinding that $1. Well, okay, not exactly. It's a lot more complicated than that, and I'm not an academic, so is cancel culture, as we're facing it now, just the default? For the sake of our sanity and this video, let's say no. Because if we concede that it is, all of this goes out the fucking window. Instead, the culture aspect refers to the extremity of our collective response to a cancellation. Instead, the culture aspect refers to the extremity of our collective response to an individual's cancellation. Enough of an extremity that it merits differentiation from the default we just ran the risk of accepting. Culture is the important word. Culture differentiates a content cop from buy sister. It used to be normal to lose at the absolute worst maybe 100,000 subscribers. And that's assuming you fucked up hardcore. And that's assuming that you already have well over 2 million subscribers. But as the month of May illustrated, our collective response to these cancellations has reached a point that it merits being explicitly highlighted in our current culture. In other words, it ain't normal. Now, I want you to note that I have not made any normative claims. Or at least I worked really hard not to. I sure hope I didn't. I haven't gotten into whether cancel culture is good or bad because it's just not time yet. But it does bring us back to the beginning. The Puritans, and Europeans as a whole, since about the 14th century, hated witches. By the way, not good. This resulted in the death of about 80,000 women. Basically a gendercide enacted by the growing Western patriarchy, but that's a little too woke for this video, and it's a bit off topic. So the fact is, they had always hated witches. But the Salem witch trials were different. That cultural element was radicalized to such an extent that it actively did them harm. So, for the final time, what is cancel culture? It is a community's abnormal and overstimulated willingness to seize an individual's social capital, typically as a result of a perceived or actual moral or social wrongdoing. So there you go. The next video will deal with the application of cancel culture, who uses it, the ethics of using it, and all that messy stuff, really. But for now, hey, thank you for watching, and consider giving me some social capital, particularly in the form of a like, hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell. And if you really like what I'm doing, you can upgrade to traditional capital. You can find my Patreon link in the description below. Honestly speaking, your support is what even enables me in the first place to talk about the things that fascinate me to people who I hope care enough to listen. And feel free to leave a comment. In fact, I encourage you to do so. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think cancel culture is, whether you think it exists, whether you think the series is a terrible idea. Give me all the hate, all the love, all the whatever in the comments below. So, many thanks. Have a good one, and illy, go. Get out of here. Bye. Fucking leave. Come on.